Hey, what's up guys, it's Roy here. So today let's talk about this bad boy right here. This is the Google Pixel 7a. I've had it for a month, so in this video let's go over my month review, let's go over the specs, and let's see if this $500 price tag is worth it that Google is asking. So let's jump right into it. So let's go ahead and discuss the actual price tag first. So the Google Pixel 7a is $500, which in my opinion makes this a very compelling phone for anyone that is looking to get into an Android but want to take advantage of those awesome Google Pixel features and not break the bank to jump up to the Pixel 7 or the 7 Pro. With the 7a though, they kind of blurred that line between flagship and mid-range, because when the Pixel 3a came out around like $349, there was a little bit of a gap between the flagship and the A series. And yes, people didn't mind dropping the price a little bit to get a little bit more of an inferior product, but still got a lot of the great Pixel features. Now, fast forward to 2023 with the 7a, the price has hiked up. Yes, they have added quite a bit of great things to this phone, but like I said, it kind of blurs that line a little bit between the Pixel 7 and this device, because you can find the Pixel 7 if you look hard enough for like maybe $100 more or $150 more, and then it starts to become a really tough question. But what I do really like about that price hike though too is I feel like it is going to make Google really push the envelope for their flagships to try to separate that difference a little bit between their A series and their flagship. But you let me know down in the comments what you think about that. But as you see, this phone looks great. It's plastic on the back, which is okay. I don't mind it at all, but it does look very premium and feels very premium. But I've never complained about having a plastic back phone because, one, if you break it, it's not going to shatter all over the place. It's going to be a little bit more manageable. But also from some other YouTube videos that I've watched, they can actually take the back off pretty easily, replace it, and you can also replace your battery if you needed to as well. The very recognizable visor still here, which looks great. I mean, it looks almost identical to a Pixel 7, which is really, really cool, knowing that this is the 7a. And if we flip it over to the front, now we're looking at a 6.2 inch OLED display here. So we got a Full HD plus screen here that looks fantastic. We have an in-display fingerprint scanner there like you just saw. It is optical and not ultrasonic, which I'm okay with because it does open up the possibilities for more tempered glass screen protectors, and it is very responsive. I mean, if you look at it right here, it's not giving me any issues at all as far as unlocking. So all the little bugs that they've had in the past with fingerprint scanners, it seems to have worked itself out with the Google Pixel 7a. Now, looking at the screen though, as you can see here, it's a really pretty screen. It's flat, it looks fantastic. It does have some chunkier bezels, which I'm okay with because at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me at all. And the reachability for this device, even though it is a 6.2 inch device, I can reach up to the top pretty easily, but that's one thing I love about Androids is the swipe down notification shade there. So if you've got a smaller hand, it's not going to really bother you that much. Now, also the newest addition to this device with the higher price is 90 Hertz refresh rate. So getting that 90 Hertz refresh rate is just going to make the phone feel that much smoother, snappier, and really just separate it even more between the Pixel 6a and the 7a. So yes, it's a little more expensive, but that is a very welcome addition in my opinion to this device. Another thing that we're getting is this hole punch camera up at the top that houses a 13 megapixel camera. It does have the ability to take some great photos. The cherry on top is that camera up there can take up to 4K 30 frames per second video, which a lot of flagships don't even do. And then looking at the sides, it does have a nice kind of metal side here with this charcoal color. It does kind of have this charcoal frame and rails here. We have our SD card slot over here on this side. We do have some antenna bands here. There is a little bit of a line here. I don't know if you can see it in the video. The Pixel 7, they always were kind of talking about how smooth it was, but then you got this little line here. To be honest with you, I hardly notice it. It doesn't bother me at all. And 9 times out of 10, I have a case on. And then looking at the bottom here, we do have our USB-C charging port and our speakers down there. We do have a dual setup here. So we have speakers up here, down firing speakers here. As you can see here, I do have the kind of volume boost app installed to kind of help with it a little bit, because it's not the loudest speakers in the world. So there's definitely going to be some assistance that's needed, and I have found that that app does the trick just fine for me. A bunch of antenna bands everywhere. Something to point out is the button setup over here. Pixels are always notorious for the power button up top, volume up and down rocker here at the bottom. Now, they are color matching. Unfortunately, they've gone away from like that pop of color. I would have really liked to have seen at least maybe like a white or orange power button just to separate it a little bit, but I'm okay with it. And then up at the top, some more antenna bands and a mic up top as well. Now, flipping it over to the back, number one is what you can't see is it does have wireless charging, which is awesome. It's not going to win any charging like speed tests. It's like 7 watts, so it's really slow. But in my opinion, I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, guys, I really only wirelessly charge it at night. So as long as I wake up to 100% battery, I'm good. But also if I'm at work or even at my desk, you know, editing videos, I'll have a little wireless charging pad there. So if I set it on it, as long as it's kind of keeping my battery charged up, I'm okay with the slower speeds, just because once again, it is a $500 mid-range phone. So wireless charging at least is a plus. Now on the back, we do have a dual camera setup, which is a new sensor, because we do get a 64 megapixel camera for the wide angle and then a 13 megapixel for the ultra wide. Now with the main wide shooter, it is pixel binning down to 13 megapixels as well. So you're still getting that sharpness out of the 64 megapixels. And even though this is the 7A, it does have a higher megapixel count than the 50 megapixels on the Pixel 7. With all the video tests and all the side-by-side comparisons that I've seen on YouTube, the Pixel 7 still does a better job in most situations. But if you weren't just pixel kind of peeping and looking at different stuff, you honestly would be hard pressed to tell the difference. And once again, this is $500 versus around the $700 range if you just wanted to buy it straight up on the Pixel 7, at least when it first came out. The nice thing about it too is we do get 4K video, so it can record up to 60 frames per second, which is awesome. So 60 frames on the back, 30 on the front, but getting that 4K capability is really nice, especially if you like to do some really cool B-roll and you're doing 60 frames per second and you wanted to slow it down a little bit just to get that little nice pan look. It is fantastic. Now, another thing to talk about though with the camera, if we do go into the video settings here, you can see that we do have time lapse and slow motion as well. If I go into the little shaky hand there, then you can see that we do have the ability to do standard, locked, which means it's for far away still shots, but it does go into the 2x zoom, active for heavy movements. So if you're running or something like that, it's going to help kind of try to give you as much of a gimbal like as possible. And then cinematic pan, which is kind of one of my favorites. That one's going to give you some smooth panning shots, like it says, at half the speed, but there is no volume, so that is the only downside. But once again, I found it very useful for B-roll, so just something to point out. And then if I do go up here, you can see what I was talking about, where we do have 4K at 60, 30, or you can do auto. If you do the speech enhancement, you do need to drop it down to 30 frames per second, and then you're able to do that. And if you see this here, it basically is showing you that with speech enhancement, it's going to be able to reduce kind of the noisy sounds around you if you're like outside or by traffic, and really focus on your voice and give you a much better sounding audio. But once again, it has to be set to 30 frames per second for this. So if you do jump it up to 60 or you put it at 30, then you're good to go. But if you turn it off there, then you can see we can do full HD at 1080 and also 4K as well, and turn the flash on and off. And we can go into the settings and do a bunch of the other stuff that we can, turn off and do like gestures, or we can, turn the camera sound on and off, different frequent faces and things like that. If we go into the camera mode, this is something that's really nice about this phone, is we do have the ability to do, you know, some different nice little night sight shots. We can do a timer, we can set the different ratios, but it's set at 4:3, which is completely fine. We can do portrait mode, long exposure modes here. So if you had something like going by really fast, then you could do that. And then of course we can go into some other modes like panorama, lens, like the Google lens, and photosphere. But what's nice about the Pixel is you are getting all the great Pixel features when it comes to cameras. So with it having the Tensor G2 chip, exactly the same chip setup as the actual Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, you're not getting an inferior chip here like some of the previous Pixel A series phones that gave you more of an entry-level Snapdragon chip. Now with Pixels and Google doing their own thing with the Tensor, you do get the exact same chip. So that means you're getting the exact same awesome AI features that we've come to know and love with Google Pixels. So that means voice to text. If you want to voice to text and have it do all that for you, and it's like this magical wizardry that it does, you can do it. Live translation, photo unblur, you know, the magic eraser feature, the ability to change bright and distracting colors in the background to something a little bit more not so bright and distracting, like a water cooler, like it showed in the Pixel 7 video as when it first launched. So the point is you get all those great features, the computational photography with the Google Pixel, the Pixel look when it comes to the photos, and it just being a great champion when it comes to taking pictures. Video, maybe not so much, but it does a decent job. But pictures, definitely 2 thumbs up with this device. So absolutely no complaining at all in that camera department. Now with this phone though, it does have a little bit bigger battery than the previous device as well. I have found in my testing that I'm getting about 5.5 to 6 hours of screen on time depending on my heavy usage or not. And I typically will charge it mostly just only overnight. So with that being said, this is an easy day phone if you aren't just going hardcore with gaming or something like that. But in my testing, like I said, I just used it like I normally do. I use my cell phone at work a lot to talk to customers, and doing all that with 5G in my area or hooked up to Wi-Fi at the office, it did easily get me a full day of usage. And there's been times where I accidentally forgot to charge it and I woke up to it still like at like 20%. So even though I didn't charge it overnight, it still had juice enough to get me through the morning, get me to work, and then I just plugged it up. That being said, charging it, it does have a fast charge capability at 18 watts. So obviously in 2023 standards, 18 watts is very laughable, but that's what the older Pixels used to have, was 18 watts. So it's going to do just fine. So if you have an old Pixel charger laying around with a charging brick, then you're good to go. There's plenty of you know, charging bricks on Amazon that you can buy. But with this, it is doing the job just fine. It's just, like I said, just like the wireless charging, the wired charging is not going to be winning any charging speed test either, but it gets the job done. So my overall experience with the Pixel 7a over the last month, in my opinion, guys, has been really fantastic. I don't think it's not really a secret that the Pixel 7a is an easy phone to recommend. If you go on YouTube, you'll see people praising it all over the place. But I really needed to test it for myself because I do consider myself kind of a Team Pixel guy. I love Google Pixel phones. I've had every single one of them. I've had from the Pixel 3 all the way to the Pixel 7, now the 7a. I've had every A series phone to date that I've at least tested. So I feel like I know Pixels very well. And at the end of the day, being able to have the excellent software experience that you have come to know and love with Google phones, if you like a clean Android look, then you're gonna love just kind of the Material You and the look of the Google Pixel. I really appreciate the basicness of it, but the also just insane, kind of like, I feel like a step above even iPhone when it comes to usability and making this one of the smarter smartphones out there. So being able to use like the Hold for Me and the you know, smart call screening that it can do, and the transcriptions of voicemails, I mean, it's just a smart device. And for 500 bucks for it to be all in kind of a quote unquote fun size, which back in the day this used to be a huge phone, now it's kind of considered small. It's really nice. I really have enjoyed using this phone. So if you are someone that's wanting to either A, get into a Pixel device or an Android device, or B, just trying to kind of get a more vanilla Android, this is the winner, guys. Like, there's a lot of other mid-range phones out there, but this one just gives you so much more for your money that I feel like it's an absolute no-brainer to recommend. So there you have it, guys. Hit that like button if you like this video. If you loved it, please subscribe, ring that notification bell for up-to-date content. So be safe, God bless. I'll see you on the next one.